Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. And thank you for joining us for this month's edition of the ACT Training Webinar Series. I believe this is our 17th installment of this series, this ongoing series. And today we're going to talk about Microsoft Office integration with ACT. A few things to talk about before we begin. I know a lot of you are thinking this and asking this question, but yes, we are recording this. This will be recorded and it will be sent to you via the email address that you used when you registered for through Zoom for this webinar. So no worries, you'll have a recording for this. You can share it with anybody else who couldn't make it today, or just watch it again later. In addition to that, I would like to let you know that you can always check out any of our previous webinars that we've done by going to act.com/explore. And I'll mention that link again at the end. When you go to that link, you'll see this page that I'm showing on my screen, where we have a list of all of our previous webinars that we've covered over the last, I don't know, year and a half now. So check that out. If you lose your link, if you lose your recording and email or whatever happens, you can always go to this page and share this page with other people too to see previous recordings. If you have questions at all during this recording, that's great. We want to hear your questions, or read them rather. Go to the Q&A panel inside Zoom and just ask your questions there. I've got Dan and Ed on the line, and they're going to help answer questions as we go. If you want to follow along with me as I'm doing things, you can do that too on your own screen. I may move a little bit fast, but again, don't worry, it's being recorded, so you can always go back and follow along later on. And then afterwards, we're going to send you a survey in an email, just so we can get some feedback from you to see what we're doing right, what we're not doing so great. And if you have any ideas, any suggestions for future webinars, we'd love to hear those too. We're always looking for extra ideas just to see what it is you want to know more about in ACT. Our goal here is to make you successful using ACT. So we want to make sure everybody leaves these times fully equipped with the information and continuing education in ACT to make you successful. So let's begin. Today we're going to talk about Microsoft Office integration, and I'm going to show you a live demonstration of different pieces of Office, including Outlook, Excel, and Word. I'm going to show you how the setup works. I'll show you as much as I can here. A little bit about me. My name is Brent Milner. I live in Arizona. I was born here. I have moved to Flagstaff, which is the northern part of Arizona where we get snow. It's about 7,000 feet elevation. And so we have lots of pine trees and stuff. So I like to go outdoors and explore. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a new feature in our Outlook integration with ACT, specifically for Outlook, and it's called the ACT sidebar. So once I start demonstrating this, you'll see that there is a new feature inside Outlook once the integration is set up, where it's a lot easier to use, a lot more features that you can see without having to do a lot of extra clicks and stuff. I'm going to show you how to see contacts from Outlook as you're reading their emails. You'll see your ACT contacts and their information listed on the screen. You'll be able to continue to automatically or manually attach any emails as history records to your ACT contacts. As you're reading emails, maybe you get an email from somebody who's not yet in your ACT database or your ACT account. You can quickly and easily add them as new contacts in your ACT database from an Outlook email. We'll be able to look at history records for your contacts, schedule activities. There's a lot of things we're going to look at today. So let's get started. We'll start first in Outlook. That's usually the hot topic that everybody wants to talk about the most. So let's talk about Outlook integration. And I will say that today I'm going to be demonstrating from an ACT Premium Cloud perspective, but that really doesn't matter too much because the features in Outlook, Word, and Excel are the same regardless of where you are. So I'm logged into my ACT Premium Cloud database, my ACT Premium Cloud account. And in order to get started in Cloud, what you need to do is install a one-time file. It's always running in the background to make sure that your ACT Premium Cloud is connected to your Office pieces, whether it's Outlook, Word, or Excel. If you're using the desktop version of Act, if you've installed Act on your desktop or on your server, and you're using the latest version of Act, it's already installed for you. So there's really nothing for you to do other than configure it to make sure that your Act database is added as an address book in Outlook. But if you're in the cloud area, what you'll need to do is a one-time setup, and this is for anybody who's using it on their PC. You'll need to go to your Tools menu, and from here, you'll scroll down and you'll click Preferences. This will open up a little Preferences modal window. And from here, click Email. Once you're looking at your email preferences area, there's a little download button here right in the center, and you'll need to click on that. When you click this download button, you're going to get a little message that says you have to install additional software. And that's true. So you can just click OK because we are going to install additional software. If you have a pop-up blocker, it's going to block that for you. So one thing I recommend doing is setting up act.com as sort of like whitelisting act.com to allow pop-ups to occur. Otherwise, your browser is going to block it. That pop-up will ask you for your password, your database password, your Act account password. And once you give it that, it's going to download a little file to your browser up in the downloads area, and it will be an Act integration executable file. All you'll need to do is go into that download directory and install that file. Let me see if I have it in here somewhere as one of my previous downloads, because I did this recently. So I may have deleted it. But it's an executable. It'll show up right here in this little browser download pop-up area. And once you click that executable file to run it, you'll see a window that says Windows is protecting your PC, because Windows doesn't really understand, it doesn't recognize this executable file. So Windows is trying to protect you from any dangerous files that you might be installing. So this is a normal screen to see. What you need to do to proceed is click the More Info link on the left. Usually our eyeballs just kind of go to this button at the bottom and we click Don't Run. If you click Don't Run, it's just going to kill the whole installation. You won't be able to proceed. You'll have to start over again. So click this More Info button, or that link there. Once you click More Info, it's going to say, okay, this app is called Act Integration Setup Executable. That's the file that downloads. And you'll need to click the Run Anyway button because Microsoft Defender doesn't recognize it. You understand it's coming from us, so click Run Anyway. When you click Run Anyway, you're going to get a user account control window. This is one of those windows that your whole screen grays out, and then it says, do you want to let this app make changes to your computer? And the answer is yes. This is the Act integration setup that we want to run. So click Yes. Then it'll launch, probably, an integration install wizard. And the first thing it's going to want to do is make sure that Microsoft Visual C++ is installed on your machine. If it's not, that's easy to do. Just click Install, and it needs this package so that it can work between the components of Office and Act Premium Cloud in your browser. So click Install, and then it'll run through a few steps, and it'll take you to the Act Integration Wizard, where you can just click Next here. It'll ask you where you want to install it. I always recommend just using the default directory because it keeps everything real tidy there in the Act for Web area of your program files. So click Next on that. Unless you absolutely need to move it to somewhere else, then you can click Browse and find a new location. Once you click Next, it's going to run through the whole setup, and then you'll get a finish window, and you'll be all done. And that's all it is to it. I know there's a little bit of trickiness regarding browser behaviors and downloading things from browsers, but that's the way to set it up currently. Now, once it's installed, you'll be able to use the Outlook integration, off the Word integration, and the Microsoft Excel integration. All three of those come together as part of that one installation. So when you launch Outlook the next time, what you'll see is an Act menu at the top of the screen. On the right of the screen, you'll also see this. It's the new Act sidebar that appears inside Outlook. And this sidebar is where you'll be able to perform pretty much everything you want to do between Outlook and ACT. This sidebar is optional. You can click the X button to close it. You don't have to have it there. If you accidentally close it and you want it to appear again, just go to your ACT menu at the top and then click the toggle sidebar button. This is the toggle switch, which allows you to open it or close it anytime. So how does this sidebar work? Well, one of the first things that it can do is if you're viewing an email from somebody who is currently in your ACT database, it will show all of their ACT details over here in the sidebar. Well, not all of the email, not all their details, but a lot of the fields will be displayed over here in the sidebar. So for example, I have a contact named Sharon Wealth, and she sent me an email. She wants to schedule a presentation meeting with me, and that's fine. But as I'm reading this email, maybe I don't remember who Sharon is, I can look over here and say, oh, Sharon, she's the owner of this company, Hops on Birch. Here's her website. Here's her birthday if I need it for any reason. And that's just her basic contact information. Down below, there's additional information as far as her business, email address, phone number, physical address for where her company is located. I can even toggle back and forth between her business information and her personal information. And if I want to make changes, maybe she's told me that maybe she's given me her birthday, or maybe in her personal area, she's given me her home phone number for whatever reason. I could enter this right here, say it's 928-555-0091. Enter that information here, and then I'll click Save Changes. So I'm still in Outlook, but I'm making changes to an ACT record inside my ACT account. I get a little notice down below that says that change has been saved successfully. And just to double check that, now remember, this is her personal phone number. To double check that, I can go into ACT and I can do a lookup for Sharon. Let's see, her last name is Wealth. Just going to perform a lookup to find her record in ACT. So here she is, Sharon Wealth, and I changed her phone number. So if I go to the personal info tab, I'll see that that phone number now has been saved in my ACT database. So as soon as I click the Save button in Outlook, because I have that integration piece connected between Outlook and ACT, it saves any data that I make, that I change inside Outlook. So that's really useful. I don't have to toggle back and forth between Outlook and ACT to make changes. Like maybe if she had given me her phone number in the email, I would have had to copy it, go to ACT, find her, paste it there, and save it. This just makes it a lot easier. I can make these changes right here from the sidebar. That's not all you can do, though. One of the other things we can do is any of these emails that I receive from my ACT contacts, I can attach them as history records. So let's say that for Sharon, I wanted to save this email as a history record in ACT. Well, one thing I should do, first of all, before I even click either of these attach buttons over here, is I should look at my preferences to see what kind of history is going to be saved from my emails. So I'm going to click Change Preferences, and we'll see here that there's two types of attachments we can do. There's Auto Attach, and then there's Quick Attach. Auto Attach will automatically attach emails as history records to your ACT database, to your contacts in your ACT database. It'll do it automatically every time you send an email or receive an email. This can be useful, and this can also be a burden. If you're getting lots and lots of emails from your ACT contacts and you don't necessarily need or want to keep them all as history records in your database, then you may not want to have auto attach set up. In that case, you would just change this setting to none for sending emails and none for receiving emails. And that'll turn off any auto attachment. If you want to automatically if you want to automatically attach emails as history records when you send or receive emails, then you can change the setting to whatever you want it to be. Email as an attachment, or maybe just the name, the date, time, and subject. Whatever setting you want to do there is fine. But you can also do a quick attach feature. And what this does is it lets you manually attach emails as history records to your ACT contacts. And you decide which ones you want to attach and which ones you don't. All this preferences screen wants to know is what type of information should it save when you attach an email to an ACT contact. I'm going to make this an attachment so that it shows up as an attached file as a history record for a contact. Okay, so I'm going to save those settings here. And now it tells me my preferences have been saved. And now for this contact, Sharon, I'm going to attach this record. There's several ways to do this. I could click the quick attach to contacts button at the top. And this has always been there in our ACT integration. But now over in the ACT sidebar, if I scroll down, there's an actions area. And here we have a new quick attach button. So I can do it from here as well. If I click that quick attach button, again, I get another confirmation down below that says history has been created for Sharon Wealth. If I go to her contact record in ACT and click the history tab, I will see that I have history records saved for her. Let me make sure I've got my activities and emails set up here. I'll have a history record saved for her in my ACT database. And it'll look like this. It'll have a little email attachment. If you click the little paperclip icon, it will download this message to your browser. And it's a .msg file. So when you open that, it automatically associates that with Outlook or whatever email you're using. And then you can see the email that was sent as a history record in ACT. So that's one way to use your emails and record them as history records in ACT so that you can, when you're in ACT, you don't have to toggle back and forth between Outlook, find the person who sent you an email. You can always just go to ACT and see that in history. Now, what if you have an email, you've received an email from somebody who is not yet in your ACT database? So in this case, I have an email from Daniel Dinatello, and he wants some information about one of my products or one of my services. But on the right, notice there's no information about Daniel over here in my ACT sidebar. And that's because he's not yet a contact in my ACT database. So the way this works is it uses the email address, the sender's email address, and it searches your ACT database for that email address on all of your records. If it can't find it, then this screen will appear that says this contact was not found. So in the instance that maybe I created a record for Daniel, but I didn't put his email address in, this is the screen you're going to see. It's going to say, I don't recognize this because there's no email address in ACT that matches here. So from here, I can do a couple things. I can click this Yes, Add Now button, or I could click the Create Contact button in the top. Two different ways to do the same thing. This is a little more elegant, so I'm just going to click Yes, Add Now. When I do that, it creates a new window for me, the Create Contact window inside Outlook. This is useful because this window, you can move it around. And I like that because if there is any signature data down below in the email, I can just move this over here and key it in exactly as it appears. Now, it's not yet smart enough to scan the email for contact information like address and phone number and stuff and pre-populate the field. I'm hoping that's going to come sometime down the line, but for now, what it does is it takes the contact's name and their email address, and it pre-populates these fields with that. So you'd have to fill out the remaining fields with the information that appears here. So I'm just going to put in some real general stuff. Acme Incorporated. I'll make him an owner. I'll put in a bogus phone number. Let's format it the way I like it. And I'll put in some address information. Zip code. Okay. That's enough stuff for now. And what I'll do then is I'll click Create Contact. Act is going to create that contact for me. It tells me down below that that contact has been created. If I toggle off of this email and click it again, we'll now see that there's a record for Daniel here in my Act database. So the sidebar recognizes this as something that's already been created. Of course, I can go to Act as well and look up Daniel. And we'll see this record appears now with all the information I provided so far. So that's useful. You can create that contact directly from within Outlook without having to go over to Act and copy and paste a bunch of information back and forth. It should save you a lot of time doing it this way. Down below in this sidebar on the right, there are a few other things. For example, I can create an activity. So with Daniel, he wants me to send him information about something. So let me create an activity for myself to remind me to do this sometime today or tomorrow. I'm going to click this Add Activity button while I'm still reading this email. When I click Add Activity, it's going to grab the contents of this email and populate this activity screen with the email contents. So the activity type defaults to meeting. I can change that to any other type. And I will mention it also lets me choose any custom activity types that I may have created as well. So I have custom activity types like on-site, inspection, and assessment. I could use those, but I'm just going to create a to-do activity for myself. And I'll set this for today. Let me make it for this afternoon. This afternoon at around 3 o'clock, I want to make sure I send this information to Daniel. By default, it gives me a low priority. I could change that if I want. It says for regarding field comes from the subject line of the email, interested in canning line. So I might change this to say send info about canning line. And then in the details area, it just copies the entire email as the details. So if I want to make it look prettier, I could do that and delete some of the parts here so that it kind of looks nicer once we get it into history. There's a location for this activity. I could add that here as well. But I'm pretty happy with the way it is now. So I'm going to click Add Activity. And now it tells me down below the activity has been created. And that's great. So if I go back into Act, I'm still looking at Daniel's detail view for his contact record. If I click over to the Activities tab, we'll see now that this to-do activity has been created for me. Send info about canning line. So that's great. From within Outlook, I can create contacts, I can create activities, I can attach emails as history records, all without ever having to leave Outlook. Down below that, in the sidebar, there is a history section here. I don't have any history set up with Daniel yet, but if I click on one of my other emails, I can see that I have some history for some of the other contacts that I have here. So for Betty, example, I have history records of a field changed, another field changed. There was something that I did here. Maybe I sent her an opportunity, an invitation or something. But I can see the last 5 history items that appear here in the Outlook sidebar. Now, there's no filters on this yet. It's just showing the last chronologically 5 history items. If I click one of these, it's going to open a little history window that tells me what I did. So I changed her score from 1 to 0 in that history item, this pint glass extravaganza, and this is from a step in one of my Act marketing automation steps as a history record. So you can see the last 5 histories with each of these contacts. One of the other things you can do in Outlook, it's not a part of the sidebar, is you can synchronize your Act contacts and your Act calendar between Act and Outlook. Now, this is managed outside of the sidebar. It's managed really outside of Outlook. You have to initiate this from within Act. So if I go to Act and I want to synchronize maybe some of my contacts, for some of my calendar between Act and Outlook. You'll need to go to your Tools menu at the top, and then you'll see that there is a Synchronize with Outlook submenu. From that submenu, you've already downloaded the integration. You don't have to download anything else. What we're going to do is go to Outlook Synchronization Preferences. Now, this is a little different from Act Premium Cloud than it is on the desktop version of Act because we're in our browser right now. So when I click Outlook Synchronization Preferences, the browser is going to download a file with a weird name, but it has an extension of AOI, which stands for Act Outlook Integration. If I click that to open it, all this file does is it opens a window, a preferences window for me inside my Act Premium Cloud account. And this is what lets me set up my synchronization preferences between Act and Outlook. From here, you can choose to synchronize your calendar or synchronize your contacts or synchronize both, really. But you're going to do it one at a time from each of these tabs. I'm going to synchronize my calendar first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to do what type of synchronization you want to do here. It could be one-way synchronization from Act to Outlook, sending all of your Act calendar items to Outlook. Or you can synchronize from Outlook to Act, sending all of your Outlook calendar items to Act. Or you can do a two-way synchronization, syncing them with each other, making sure that they're both always up to date. Maybe I don't really ever create anything in Outlook, any meetings or anything in Outlook. So what I'm going to do in this instance is I'm just going to sync from Act to Outlook. I'm going to click the Advanced Preferences down below, and this lets me decide what types of calendar items I want to synchronize over to Outlook. Do I want to synchronize every single activity type that I have? Or am I only interested in maybe my calls, my meetings, and to-do items? It really just depends on what you want to synchronize over. I'm just going to leave it at calls, just for the sake of training. And then for my calendar range, you can go from a month ago to 2 years in the future. So you can really have a huge window here of activities to synchronize. The trick with this is if you have a lot of activities on your calendar, the synchronization may take a long time. So I always recommend people to make the most narrow window that you can reasonably make that makes sense for you and your business. For the sake of training, I'm just going to do as small as possible. I'm going to sync activities as far back as 1 day ago up to 7 days in the future. That's a pretty small window. But that means my synchronization will go really fast. If there are any ring alarms set up with your activities, you can specify where you want those to happen in Act or Outlook or both. I'm just going to leave them in Act. I don't like a lot of alarms popping up on my screen all the time. So those are my advanced preferences. And now I'm ready to do a synchronization with Outlook. Now there's one other thing down here. It's the Schedule Automatic Synchronization button is pretty interesting. Right now, the way I have it set up is it's only going to synchronize between Act and Outlook when I click the Synchronize Now button. But if I want it to be more up to date without me having to do anything, I can set up a synchronization schedule. And there's lots of options here to do an auto synchronization. For example, I could say synchronize every day at 6 a.m. Or I could choose whatever time of day I want it to synchronize. Maybe we're already working at 6 a.m., so let's make it 3 a.m. That way I know when everybody comes into the office in the morning, everything is up to date as of 3 a.m. that morning. Maybe that's not often enough because we work with a lot of records throughout the day, and I don't want to wait till 3 a.m. for everybody's records to be synchronized or all my records to be synchronized back and forth. So I'm going to set up a different synchronization pattern every 2 hours, or I could say every 15 minutes. You can choose what you want here. Or you can say synchronize whenever you start up your computer. So in the beginning of the day, when you start your computer, it'll launch this synchronization. And then the last option is to synchronize in real time when records change. Obviously, this is ideal because it's going to always have your Act and your Outlook synchronized with each other. But this could take up some of your processing power because it's always trying to synchronize records. So it just depends on which one works the best for you. If you set up any of the synchronization, automatic synchronization schedules, you can also include a timer down below. If you set it to always synchronize, and I say, synchronize every hour, it's going to keep synchronizing even in the middle of the night, 11 p.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and so on. And so you can set a window that says, I don't really need you to keep running this sync process overnight. Maybe only synchronize between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. And so that's what this sync timer is allows you to do. If you chose to synchronize when your computer is started, you can set a delay here saying, I don't want to start synchronizing until I've logged into ACT and I've been logged in for 10 minutes. Then it will do that first, that daily synchronization. So there's a lot of options here for how you want to synchronize automatically. I'm going to leave mine at disabled because I want to show you how to manually synchronize. So I'm going to click disable this. And now on this screen, I've set up my calendar synchronization, but what about contacts? Before we even do our first sync, let's talk about contacts. So again, when you click the Synchronize Contacts tab, you can choose to synchronize from ACT to Outlook or Outlook to ACT, or you can synchronize them with each other. For the sake of training, I'm just going to synchronize from ACT to Outlook to show you that when I create a contact in ACT, it will get synchronized over to Outlook. But I also have to decide which contacts I want to synchronize with Outlook. If you click this select button, it'll let you choose. By default, it's just going to say synchronize all ACT contacts. And this could be good. This might be what you want, but you may have some contacts in your ACT account that you don't want on your Outlook contacts area. And if that's the case, all you need to do is set up some groups in ACT that contain the contacts that you want to synchronize. And if that's the case, you'll choose the second option, synchronize only contacts in these groups. And so for me, I've got one group that I want to use, my Gmail addresses. And I'm also going to synchronize a group that I have called Outlook contacts. For whatever reason, those are the ones I want to synchronize. Now, down below, it says, whenever you have new contacts from Outlook, add them to this ACT group. This makes more sense if I'm synchronizing from Outlook to ACT, but in any case, I'm just going to choose my Outlook contacts group. If I ever decide to synchronize from Outlook to ACT, I want to make sure that those contacts get added to my Outlook contacts group so that I know where they came from. All right, I'm going to click OK now, and then it's going to tell me, I guess I have one new contact that it's going to synchronize. And I'm all set. All I have to do now is click OK. And this will close that Outlook synchronization preferences window. It's going to examine everything that needs to get synchronized. And when this window closes, it's going to ask me, do I want to synchronize ACT and Outlook now? So that's really convenient. After you set up your preferences, you can click yes, and it will perform that synchronization. I'm going to click no for now because I want to show you how to do a manual synchronization. There's really 3 ways to do it. The first way would be if I had clicked yes to that prompt to do a synchronization. A second way is from within ACT itself in the tools menu under synchronize with Outlook, there is a synchronize now option, and that will launch the synchronization. So you can initiate it from ACT if you want. You can also initiate it from Outlook. If I go back into Outlook, we'll see there's a synchronize button on the ACT ribbon at the top of the screen. So make sure you click ACT at the top, and then there will be the synchronize now button. So I'm going to click this synchronize now button. In the taskbar down at the bottom, there's a little blue man icon, and he will change to a little spinning, whirly sort of animated thing. That tells you that the synchronization is running. And once that little whirlwind swirl thing turns back into the blue man, then you know that the synchronization is finished. And so that means I can check to see if things have been created. So I know that this is a new contact, Daniel Dinatello. I created him in ACT, but he's not yet in my Outlook contacts list. So if I go to Outlook here, I should be able to find Daniel Dinatello. There he is. So he's been created now in as a contact in my Outlook address book. If I go to my calendar as well, let's look at my work week. I have a call to set up a meeting next week. Is that the one I created? I can't remember which one I created, but it will also, I created a to-do item. That's why the Daniel Dinatello one didn't show up here. Let me go fix that real quick. So I created a new activity with Daniel, but it was a to-do item, and that's why it didn't synchronize. To make that change, all I have to do is go into my calendar synchronization preferences again and add this to-do item. Let's add meeting to just for fun. I'll click OK. And if I click OK, then it will ask me again if I want to synchronize between ACT and Outlook. And when that window comes up, this time I'm going to click yes. I should see again this little blue guy. He'll start swirling here. And once he stops, I'll know that synchronization is finished. Now, if you have lots and lots of records, again, this will take considerably longer. One thing you can do also is there's a little ACT integration service. It's like a blue envelope. If you right-click that, you can hover over Synchronize with Outlook, and you can view history. When I click that, it'll give me a little window that shows me a history of the synchronizations that I've made between ACT and Outlook. So you can see that it's saved some activities, and you can kind of look at this to see the details of those. So now if I go back into Outlook, I can see that here is that to-do item that I just created with Daniel. It's been added to my Outlook calendar as well. So there you go. That is ACT, the ACT sidebar in Outlook, plus a few other things regarding ACT and Outlook integration. Now, the next thing I want to show you is going to be regarding Excel. So I'm going to show you how you can export lists from ACT into Microsoft Excel. This is really useful if you have somebody at your company who doesn't really have an ACT account. They can't log in, they can't see the data. Sometimes this is for an intern or somebody that you want to give a list of contacts to and say, hey, call them and maybe update the information. I don't have the correct address information for them. You can give them a spreadsheet and send them off to contact your contacts and say, update the spreadsheet for me. So let me show you how to generate a spreadsheet like that. I'm going to go into ACT again, and I'm just going to do a lookup on all of my contacts to start. And I'm going to go into my list view, because remember, list views is where we can export to Excel. So you need to see a list view like this. You can do this in contacts and groups, opportunities, places like that where you have a list view, and you'll see that there is an export to Excel button at the top. On the desktop version, I think it's just the icon of the XLS icon there. Now, there's a couple of things to know about exporting to Excel from ACT. This is only going to export what you see in this current lookup. So I have a lookup of 434 contacts. If I click this export to Excel, it's going to give me an Excel spreadsheet with 434 contacts in it. And it's only going to include the fields or the columns that are shown right here. So if I'm asking my intern to call each of these contacts and update their information, it's not going to help the intern because there's no phone information that's going to be printed on this lookup or on this export. So I need to change the data that appears here on the screen. And the way to do that is to click Customize Columns. If I click Customize Columns, a little window pops up that allows me to decide which columns I should show and which I should hide. On the left, it's showing me every available field in ACT, which I could show as a column. And this even includes custom fields that I may have created over time. On the right, it's showing me the columns that currently appear on this list view. Let me move that down a little bit, and you can see I've got company, contact, ID status, and title. And you can see those at the top here, company, contact, ID status, and title. So it displays them in this order, top to bottom is left to right on the screen. Well, I need to include at least a phone number so that my intern can call each of these contacts and update the information here. What I'm going to do is locate in the left this email field. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to click it to move it to the right, and it adds it to the bottom of the list. So that email field will appear all the way over here. I didn't want email. I wanted phone number. What am I doing? Let's grab phone. There we go. So that phone number will appear all the way over here on the right. If I highlight phone, I can click this move up button a whole bunch of times. Maybe I want it to appear right after the contact's name. Okay. I'm going to get rid of email. I don't need that to be there. So I just want to make sure this phone number appears in my as one of my columns here above. I'm going to click OK. The screen will refresh, and I should see a new phone number field appear right here. Perfect. Okay, so now I have all the fields that I want to see. I can click export to Excel, but maybe I don't want every single contact to be printed. This is going to be a giant spreadsheet, or it has the potential to be. So I'm going to perform a real quick lookup, maybe of just my contacts in a specific state or in a specific area. Maybe I only want my contacts that are in, oh, here we go, Colorado is fine. Once I click OK, it's going to perform that lookup for me. And I can see I have 25 or so contacts in Colorado. That's perfect. So what I'm going to do is export this list to Excel and then share that with my intern. So I'm going to click Export to Excel. We'll see that it shows up as a download in my browser. Now, if you're doing this on the desktop, it will just launch Excel and give you that file right away. But because we're in a browser, we have one extra step we have to go. So I'm going to just click this spreadsheet file, and that will launch my Excel spreadsheet. Okay, now I can enable editing, and I can reformat this and make it look nicer if I need to. So I would save this to my computer somewhere and then send it to the intern with instructions. Call each of these people and make sure this is the correct address information. And so exporting to Excel is very simple. This is also a way, if you needed to do a mass update to your contacts, you could export to a spreadsheet like this, edit the data, and then re-import it back into ACT. And it will update those addresses and things like that without having to go one by one through your ACT database. As long as you have, duplicate checking set up so that you're not creating duplicate entries. So that's Excel. The last thing I want to show you is using Microsoft Word with ACT. And this is going to be done through our right menu as we do some mail merges and things like that. Inside the right menu, you'll see there's a download Word integration link here. You don't need to do that because you've already integrated ACT with Office. So that you've already downloaded this and installed that. So that's great. You don't have to do that again. But let's say I wanted to create a template or edit a template that I could use for future mail merge functions, like sending out an email or printing a letter and sending it out that way. I'm going to click this Edit Template to see what kind of templates I already have in my account. There's a lot of default templates that come with ACT. You can go through each of these and have a look at them to see what they contain. I recommend, or I like finding a template and editing it, because then maybe a lot of the work has been done for me already. So I'm going to find one of these templates, and I'm going to use this presentation follow-up email template. Now you'll notice there's an extension of ADT here. That stands for ACT Document Template, and that's the file type that ACT uses to perform mail merges. So it's not going to use like a document DOC file or a TXT file. It needs to be in an ADT file extension. But when we save this template, we'll see that it does that automatically for you. So I'm going to open this 03 presentation follow-up email. And I'm going to click open. Again, because I'm in the browser, it's going to make me download this AMM file. That stands for ACT Mail Merge. And if I click this, it's going to open it up in Microsoft Word for me. If you're in the desktop, you don't have to do that little download. Once you click Edit Template, it'll just launch this Word file for you. And again, even though this is launched in Word, it is an ADT file type. That's important because ACT only uses ADT files as templates. But we can see what this file contains. So there is a salutation at the top. There is a body to the message, and there's some weird things down below. And I'll explain what all these do. So anytime you see this bracketed item here, that's a mail merge. If you click on it, it's going to select the whole thing. That means that's a field that has been added from your ACT database as a placeholder inside this mail merge file, so that ACT will later come back and populate this with the proper data. So I have it set to say, Dear Salutation. Now the salutation field in ACT, it's like a nickname. It's commonly used as a nickname field. So if somebody's name is Thomas, but they prefer to be called Tom, you could save it as Tom in the salutation field as a nickname. But maybe I've decided that I want this follow-up email to be a little bit more formal. So I don't want to use salutation. Maybe I want to use their first name and last name. What I can do here is just hit delete to get rid of that field. And then I'm going to add a new field. The way to add a new field is at the top, you're going to locate the ACT ribbon or the ACT menu at the top here inside Word. And this will show you the things that you can do inside Word that will integrate it with ACT. One thing I'm going to do is show fields. I want to see which fields I can add to this template. And so since I wanted this to be first name, last name, I can scroll down here and I could use contact. That combines first name and last name together. Or I could add first name and last name separately. Let me do that. So first name, I'll select first name and click add. And you can see it's going to add this first name field for me. Then I'm going to look for last name and I'll click add again. Now, one thing I need to do here is I'll click OK, is I need to put a space in between the two. Otherwise, it's going to just shove the first name and last name together. So if I go over here, I can get my cursor between and hit the space bar. Now I have a space between first name and last name. What about these down below? These are a little bit different. These say my before contact name. This is going to look up the my record, or in other words, who's logged into the database. So it's going to put my information here, my title and my company name here, not the contact's information there. And the way you can find these fields is if you're viewing the fields, you'll toggle from the contact data to the my record data. And so now this will let me put in my contact name. Maybe I just wanted to put my first name here instead of my full name for whatever reason. I'll just choose first name and add that. You see how it says now my first name? Then what I would do is get rid of the full contact data. Oops, I want to get rid of that. Oops, I'm doing this wrong. You select this and delete. Okay. I goofed that up a little bit, but there we go. So now it's going to say thanks, and then it's going to show my first name, the title, and then my company. Once I like that, once I have this template, and then I could edit the body of this template, you can see I have some placeholders of what this is supposed to talk about. So I would want to maybe type in exactly what details I want to provide here. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to save this. So in Word, I'm going to go to my file menu here, and I'm going to click Save As. And then I'm going to click Browse. Now, if you click Browse, it's going to pop open this Save ACT template window. And that's useful because we need this to be saved to the database. And again, this is in the Act Premium Cloud environment is where this appears. If you're on the desktop, you can usually just follow through with the default settings. It'll save these templates exactly where it found them in the appropriate directory inside your database. But if you're on the cloud, it needs to save this to the cloud and not to your computer. The reason you want to save it to the cloud is so that you can use these templates from other computers if you log in from different places, and other users could use these templates too if you make them available to them. If I save it to this computer only, then these templates would only be available to me when I'm on this computer. So we recommend using the database one. And I might rename this follow-up email formal. So I don't have to overwrite what's currently there. I could save it as something new. All right, once that's saved, I'm all set here. Now I can go into Act. Let me close this down now. And I can go into Act and I can perform a mail merge. Now, to perform a mail merge, what I want to do is look up a few contacts first. I don't want to send one to each of these contacts. So I'm going to create a simple lookup. I'm going to click 2 or 3 of these users here, or these contacts here. Let's do 3. And then I'm going to click the lookup selected button. Oh, I should have explained what I did there. When you click any of the contacts in a list, it's going to highlight them. If you want to select more than one, you can hold down the control button and it'll select more than one. Or if you hold down the shift button, it will select everything between your original click and the current click. So there's 2 ways to sort of select more than one. You can also, I believe, engage this tag mode button at the top, which will let you click multiple items without holding down any buttons. So there's a few ways to do that. Once I've selected, I don't know, 3 or 4 contacts, I'm going to click lookup selected. And now I have a lookup of 4 contacts. These are the 4 people I want to send that email to from the template I just edited. So I'm going to go to my right menu now, and I'll choose Mail Merge. This opens up my Mail Merge window. Now there's 3 different types of mail merges you can do. You can output it to a word processor, or you can output it to an email and just send it as an email, or you can print it. I'm going to output to my word processor right now so that I can show you what it looks like without having to send an email. Next, I need to select the template. So I'm going to browse, and here it opens up the templates in my database. And this one was called 03 presentation follow-up email formal. There it is. I'll click that to open it. And it puts that into this read-only field here. So I know which template we're going to be using. And then select contacts lets me choose who I'm sending it to. I could send it to all contacts, current contact, or I could even find a group or company inside my Act database and send it to them. So there's another option. But since I've already done the lookup, we'll choose current lookup. And that's all I need to do. I'm going to click Save. And we'll see that this merge AMM file shows up in my browser's download area. If you're on the desktop, it'll just jump straight to Word with the new file. So this AMM stands for Act Mail Merge. I'm going to open that file right now in Word. And what it's doing is it's looking at the contacts and it's merging contact data into the template. And it's going to create 4 different letters, or emails in this case, that I would have emailed. But it's going to save all of their contact data. So I put first name and last name there. And instead of my full contact name, it just has my first name. And it's got my title and my company name. For the second contact, it has a different name there. For the third contact, it has a different name there. So what we're doing is we're printing out, we're creating a letter for each of these 4 contacts that were in my lookup. Now, before I just close this or print this or whatever I'm going to do, one thing I would want to do is go to my Act tab at the top, and I'm going to click Print and Record. Now, what this will do is it'll let me send it to the printer, and I don't have a printer set up on this machine, so I'm going to print it as a PDF. I'll just call it letter. Can't type. Letter to 4 Colorado contacts. I'm going to save it on my desktop, but normally you would print that out. When you click save, the next thing that happens is ACT is going to pop up a little window that says, okay, we want to record this as history to each of these contacts as well. And so they're pre-populated here on the right. So I'm happy with that. I could add additional contacts if I want to, but it doesn't make sense because I'm only sending it to these 4. So I'm going to click OK. And then it asks me what kind of history do I want to record, or even do I want to record history at all? So I'm going to click yes, because when I send this to them, I want to make sure I have it recorded as history in ACT. Okay, and then for the regarding field, I'll just put in follow-up formal letter. You could probably put something in there that makes more sense to you, but I'm just putting that in there for now. I can also check this attached document to history so that it shows up as an openable Word document on their history tabs. All right, so I'm going to click OK. And now it has created all that history for me. The little progress bar down below did it really fast. I'm going to click to close this. And if I look at any of these contacts, if I go to their detail view, I should be able to go to their history area now and see that this follow-up formal letter has been added as a history record, showing up as a letter sent. And if I click the little paperclip icon, I can download and open that Word file to show exactly what letter it was that was printed to them. So there you have it. That is using a mail merge inside ACT using Word. And the very last thing I want to show you has to do with creating a quote in an opportunity record. So I'm going to go to one of my quotes, one of my new opportunities. Let's say find one that's got some dollars attached to it. So here's an opportunity record that I created for a contact. If I click products and services, let me drag this up a little bit. You can see there's a few products here, 4 products listed. It's got a total amount. It's got all kinds of figures attached to this. Once you have your Outlook integration set up, or I'm sorry, your Office integration set up, you can go to this quote button at the top to create a quote. When I click that button in the desktop, it's just going to launch Word. In ACT Premium Cloud, it will download another AMM file. If I click that AMM file, it's going to generate this quote and it's going to launch it in Microsoft Word. And what this quote will do is it will contain some contact information at the top. I've edited this template to put my logo in there, and it's got my address information there too. Here is the contact information for the contact associated with the opportunity, including their email address and phone number. And then down below is an embedded Excel spreadsheet inside this quote. So if I wanted to add a tax to this, for example, it shows 0 tax now, and I know where they live and I know what their tax should be. Maybe it's 6.5%. When I add that in there, it's going to automatically adjust the price. So if I click outside there, the new price is adjusted. And now I can print this or save it and email it to the contact. So real simple quoting feature, nothing really robust here, but it's a great way to just quickly generate a quote that you can send off and let them see what that might, what this deal might cost them. And this quote, this template is also available in your templates area that you can edit. If you go to your tools or your right menu and you choose edit template, you'll see it down below listed as quote. So that's the template you can edit. All right. So thank you for joining us today. We covered, man, we went the whole hour this time. Again, if you want to see additional webinars, go to act.com/explore. It'll show you that page that I displayed at the very beginning today. where you can look at all of our past webinars. This one will be uploaded there within a day or two, I think. Again, if you have any other topics you'd like for us to cover in a future webinar, just email us at team@act.com and just try to describe what you'd like to know more about, and we'll do our best to put something together for you guys in the future months. I'm going to hang around and we're going to answer any remaining questions in the Q&A panel. But thank you for joining us today. I hope you all have a great week, a great weekend, and we will see you next month. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.